Hi everyone, thank you for joining the session. My name is Ishan and I will be talking about Decoupled Drupal, bridging the gap between developer and marketer needs. So let's first talk about what do we mean by decoupled CMS and the rise of decoupled CMS over the past few years. Uh, so how does a decoupled CMS implementation differ from a traditional CMS implementation? In a traditional CMS implementation, a CMS like Drupal is responsible for both the backend and the front end of your websites, right? So Drupal is responsible for storing and managing the content, as well as responsible for rendering the web pages on the front end. So Drupal's templating engine is responsible for that. But in a decoupled CMS implementation, Drupal is responsible for managing and storing the content, and then it will expose that content in the form of APIs. Drupal will not be used for rendering the front end. The front end can be rendered by another technology like JavaScript frameworks such as Angular, Vue, React, or a framework such as Flutter can be used to create native mobile applications using the content. So we'll see in today's session, we'll talk about how these two approaches impact different personas of the CMS. So one persona is developers who work with the CMS and extend uh, and build features on your CMS as well as your website. And the other persona is people who are actually managing the content and using the CMS, such as marketing teams. How does these two approaches impact both of these different personas? We'll talk about that today. So, as you can see from this Google Trends report, there's from the past 8 years, from about late 2015 uh, and 2016, there has been a sharp increase in the interest over this topic, headless CMS. And just a quick note that for some of you may be aware of this, but uh, there is uh, there are some nuances between headless CMS and a decoupled CMS. There are certain differences there, but both of them are very similar. And it's for the context of today's session and the interesting conflict that we'll be talking about, or the interesting problem statements that we will be talking about, we can safely interchangeably use these two terms, headless CMS and decoupled CMS, because they apply to both of them. Uh, so, along with this rise in uh, the interest towards headless CMS, uh, at similar times, Drupal also uh, was in sync with this, right? So you can see Dries wrote about the future of decoupled Drupal in late 2015. Uh, the flowchart that you see in the center is from a blog post that Dries has been updating every year from 2018, where he talks in great detail and depth about the different approaches you can take towards decoupling Drupal, and what are the different factors in deciding which is the best approach for your uh, website implementation. And at around that time, about late 2015 and early 2016, when Drupal 8 launched, uh, the there was a lot of emphasis on the API first nature of Drupal 8 and how that translate into easier implementation of decoupled CMS. So our case study today talks about an interesting conflict that came up in one of the projects which was in the end a completely decoupled project, but we got into this conflict between the marketing team uh, as well as our clients' technology teams. So the marketing team was looking for a single CMS. They wanted to consolidate uh, all of their websites as part of the redesign. They wanted to uh, consolidate uh, everything onto a single CMS platform. And so Drupal was one of the top contenders when we got into the project. Very early on during the discovery phase, when we were taking a deeper look at Drupal along with the client, uh, these were the top priorities that came out of it, right? So uh, as you can see on the left, the marketing team was looking for functionality such as a drag and drop page builder. They wanted to preview ability to preview unpublished content and support their editorial workflow. They also wanted control over SEO and analytics, right? So the marketing team uh, wanted had these top priorities, but the development team mentioned that they are looking for Angular 8 as the front end, and the main reason behind that was that Angular 8 was chosen as the choice of front end technology across the organization. So outside of this project, there were many other projects that were already leveraging uh, this Angular 8 as their front end, and they were building and maintaining a web component library of Angular 8 components that they expected to be reused across the firm. So this was a key requirement from the development team, and they also had some concerns about. So they wanted to the front end developers wanted to work with Angular 8. They did not want to learn any of Drupal's front end technology, so they didn't want to get into PHP or Twig. So from this, it was very clear, right? The marketing team, the requirements that they had were most suited for a traditional CMS implementation because you get all of these functionality with Drupal. Drupal does this really well and does most of this out of the box. But what the development team was asking for was more suited towards a decoupled implementation. So this is where we started to get into a conflict between these two teams. And this is a conversation or a conflict that is not unique to this particular client. We've seen this and we've been into similar conversations with a lot of clients over the past 2 to 3 years, especially with the rise in interest towards decoupled CMS. And this is a quote from Preston So, who's a leading voice in the CMS community and a thought leader in the Drupal, Gatsby space. And he's also the author of the book Decoupled Drupal in Practice. So this quote is from one of the blog posts from his blog series, which talks about this grand new compromise that needs to happen within the CMS world, and the compromise needs to happen between these two different realities, right? As he calls it. So there's a reality of the developers who talk about things such as API first, distributed CMS, distributed architecture, GraphQL, uh, all the latest JavaScript frameworks. So that's the focus for the developers. Uh, and on the other hand, there is the CMS users who are responsible for managing the content who are not that concerned about the technology, but they do want to retain baseline CMS features which they've had for over a decade now. So things like content preview, drag and drop page managers, they expect these features to be there, and they also want more control. They are not typically marketing teams, for example, are not only responsible for the content, right? They want more control over the SEO performance of the page, the meta tags. They want control over analytics, personalization, and things like that. So now with this reality, where the developers are moving towards a decoupled CMS approach, a lot of these non-negotiable baseline CMS features uh, are being lost, which is what was happening in this particular conflict as well. So now, how did we approach this? What did we do next, and how did Drupal help us here? So our first attempt was to uh, talk to the development team and see if we could work out something with them, because we felt that whatever the marketing team was asking for was very reasonable, and a traditional Drupal implementation will take care of all of those requirements out of the box with the addition of very few contributed modules. So we took this approach of progressively decoupling, which essentially is very similar, is a traditional Drupal implementation, but you can add a JavaScript framework layer on top of Drupal's front end engine, right? So what that means is your Drupal is still responsible for routing and for generating the page, but within the page you could have some components or that are being generated via, for example, a React application, or you could even have the entire content coming in from a React application. So here is a screenshot of Drupal 8 Umami installation profile demo site where we have a React to-do application embedded in the page. So with this approach, we, of course, the marketing team was very happy because they were getting uh, all of their top requirements from a traditional Drupal implementation. But the development team was not really happy still because even though we were able to, as part of this proof of concept, we were able to pull in Angular 8 components from their web component library and show them on the page. The whole process of doing that uh, did require some level of Drupal and knowledge, right? It wasn't very seamless, and you need to have a lot of scaffolding. You need some secret sauce to make this work. So we did make this work, but it wasn't how the development team envisioned it to be, and they weren't comfortable uh, getting into the Drupal theme to make this work. So then in our second attempt, we looked at this from the other angle, where now that we understood that, using an Angular uh, front end is a key requirement here, and why the development team is emphasizing on that, we sort of relooked at the requirements of the marketing team and said, is it always the case that, decoupled Drupal cannot handle some of these common requirements that they're asking for? So as you can see, what they were asking for, the top three things that they were asking for, we felt that, can we make these things work with a decoupled Drupal implementation? So that's what we did. We got into this project and we delivered them these three functionalities in a completely decoupled setup as well. So let's get into a demo, and I can show you how we implemented some of these features for this client. So I have a demo Drupal 8 site here, which is being set up using a Drupal 8 distribution called EzContent. And this particular distribution provides all of these features that you need that our client was asking for in a decoupled setup. So let's start with the first requirement, which was they wanted to make sure that they have the ability to preview unpublished content. Now, this looks like a very standard CMS functionality that you can preview unpublished content if you have the necessary permissions. And there's something that you get in Drupal out of the box. But when you go completely decoupled, uh, you lose this functionality immediately, right? You have to do certain things to make this work. So the approach that we took here was I have this article, which is, as you can see, it is unpublished right now. So I'll go and edit this node. And as you can see, once you install EzContent, you can tie this with your decoupled front end. So here we have tied this with all Angular, Gatsby, React applications. And for the purpose of this demo, I'll use the React application. So you can see we have a button here at the top which says Preview React. And if I hit this button, I will be able to see this page, even though this is unpublished. I will be able to see this page and preview how it will look on my React application. So now you can see this is a React application. We are not on Drupal anymore. This is a completely decoupled React application. And I'm able to see my article preview here. And if I look at the same article on a different browser where I'm not logged in, so I have this open on another browser, I would see an access denied and a 403. Now, how does that happen? How am I able to see this page even though this is unpublished? It happens because what we're doing here is we're attaching a unique hash key that you get, and you're able to get this key only if you uh, are logged into Drupal and have access to this button. So if you have the necessary permissions and if you're logged into Drupal, you get this button which attaches this unique hash key, which tells the React application to allow viewing of this unpublished content. So without this hash key, if a site visitor comes and looks at this page, they will get a 403 access denied. So with this, we were able to solve one of their uh, problem statements of uh, having the ability to preview unpublished content. The second problem statement that they had was around uh, using Drupal's drag and drop layout builder, because they really loved that functionality, uh, and that gave them the freedom to create landing pages without needing developer or IT help. So for that, I'll use this landing page content type that comes with EzContent. So let me quickly set up a landing page. So similar to the article content type, you can see on the landing page content type as well, I get my preview buttons. So I'll pick the React page again, and I have a blank page that I've created on Drupal. I should get a blank page here on React as well. So you can see I have a blank page here that has been dynamically created as soon as I created a new page in Drupal. Now I can start adding content to my Drupal page using Drupal's layout builder. So the layout builder, of course, gives me the ability to dynamically add sections to the page. So I can, let's pick a 2-column region. I'll pick a 50-50 configuration. So now I have a left column and a right column. Let me add a couple of blocks to these sections. I'll add a social media block here. I'll grab a Instagram post from here and add it to the left column. On the right column, let me add an embed code. I'll embed a video. Okay, let's before moving ahead, let's save this and see what we have till now. So I've added 2 blocks to the left and the right column, and let me refresh my React application. So as I refresh my React page, I should get these 2 new components. As you can see, I have the Instagram post on the left and the video on the right. And with EzContent API, this front end is able to read the layout information dynamically as well. So I can, for example, drag and drop. I can move the embed code video to the left. I'll move the social media to the right. Just swap them around. And if I refresh the React page, you should see that the video will go towards the left and the Instagram post will go to the right. So it reads the layout information. I can dynamically add more regions to this and add different kinds of components that are available. So let me maybe add a full width column on top of these 2 left and right columns. So I have now a full width column here. I can add, let's pick a hero media block. So this particular component allows me to put in some metadata. I'll select a background image for my hero. So all the configuration that different components provide, the decoupled front ends respect that and understand that. So I can position my text. I can like change the background color of the overlay. Let's say I can change the opacity. I'm gonna hit this save, and so you can see on my Drupal page, I have the hero followed by these 2 components. And this, if I refresh my React page now, I will get the same thing here. So I will have my, I should have a new hero block at the top, which is full width. And so you can see, and it picks up the configuration around the banner color and opacity, and it is followed by these 2 columns. So that was the problem statement 2 that they had. So we integrated Drupal's layout builder with the decoupled front end. And then problem statement three was, of course, they wanted more control over meta tags. And so what we did was all of the uh, standard Drupal modules that you use, such as for setting up a URL alias, for scheduling, for generating your meta tags, for advanced meta tags like schema.org. We integrated all of that with a decoupled front end as well. So if I visit my React article page here and look at the source code, all of the meta tag information, the schema.org information is coming through the Drupal configuration. So the CMS users have that control and can use the configurations that Drupal provides. So with that, we were able to solve a few key uh, feature requirements that the marketing team had, and they wanted those in a decoupled CMS implementation as well. So with this particular approach, we were able to make both the teams happy. They got the whatever the key requirements they had. We were able to meet them, and this was a happy compromise in the end. And the reason we could do this was because of Drupal's open architecture, right? Drupal's open architecture with its API readiness and a huge community support uh, and a variety of contributed modules, which we used as well as contributed back as part of the easy content distribution, made Drupal an ideal choice to achieve such an happy compromise. And you can do this too. So whatever I showed in the demo, you can use all of these features by installing the easy content API Drupal distribution. Uh, a key module here which we use for Drupal preview functionality was the access and publish. You can use that standalone as well. And then if in your case it makes more sense to go progressively decoupled, then you can check out the PDB module, which uh, helps you get a huge kickstart with a progressive decoupled approach. And a few resources that you can read upon is, of course, this particular blog post by Preston, and you should definitely check out the other blog posts in this series that he has written as well. And then if you decide to use the PDP module or explore that module, you can go through this blog post as well, which explains what you will need to do to make it work with Angular 8 or Drupal 8. So with that, I would like to thank you for joining the session. I'm available on Twitter and LinkedIn. Would love to connect with anybody if you would like to share your experiences about going decoupled with Drupal, any problem areas or any other areas that you think uh, should be addressed as part of easy content. I would love to hear about that. And in general, if you have any questions as well, please feel free to write to us at business@Srijan, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter or LinkedIn. Uh, Thank you so much for joining the session. Bye bye.